It's time for the great game debate. Let's go. In this segment, we take a look at board games of the past and see if that game still holds up to today's standards. We are going to be looking at Aquatica. This is a 1 to 4 player game, plays in about 30 to 60 minutes, and is done by designer Ivan Tufosky. Tufosky. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. I have no idea, but it's a great game. But we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to kick it over to John for a quick how to play video.
All right, this is a quick overview on how to play the game Aquatica. In Aquatica, you're exploring the ocean depths and discovering these different locations. These locations you're going to want to either conquer with the power listed or buy them for the amount of gold listed. And then you're going to need to bring them up to the surface in order to score the treasure that you find there. You're going to have your own personal player board. And once you get one of these locations, you would place it in all the way up to the first bubble. And then those bubbles are going to give you other actions to use, or you can just use other methods to bring them all the way up to the surface. Then once they're there, use a treasure action to place them there and get the points at the end of the game. The way you're going to do that is with a hand of cards. Everybody's going to start with the same hand of cards. You're going to have a Legionnaire that allows you to conquer a location. You're going to have the Seahorse, which allows you to scout first and then conquer a location. When you scout, you're going to move whatever locations are left here up here for a 1 power discount to conquer them, and then we will refill the general supply. You also will have the Sea Lord. He allows you to buy 1 location with gold. Then you have the Blue Waters Agent, which allows you to recruit a new character off of the character board that all come at different costs. Some of them are always free. The Wave Teller. This allows you to do 2 treasure actions, as we had talked about earlier, or bring a card up 2 levels. And then there's Matrona, which allows you to bring all of your cards back into your hand. Also at your disposal are going to be 4 trained mana rays. These trained mana rays will start in the ready position. Then as you exhaust them, you'll flip them over. And they give you different powers to augment, like gold and power in order to conquer things. And then when you play your Matrona card, you get to reflip them back to their ready position. So this will go on until either the last card of the location stack is brought out onto the board, or the last card from the character stack is brought out on the board, or if someone has fulfilled all 4 endgame goals. You can see there's endgame goals up at the top, and on your turn, if you've fulfilled one of those, you could place one of your trained mana rays in the far leftmost position and get those points at the end of the game. Now let me pause here and show you the Cold Waters expansion. All right, here's the game with the Cold Waters expansion. As you can see, the end-of-game goals are no longer in play. Instead, you have these little allies. These ally cards you can buy with any combination of gold and victory points. To use victory points, you have to actually take cards that you have treasured out of your treasure and discard them for the rest of the game, so you will not get those points. However, you always have 4 different ones that give you an exact number of points, as you can see on here. It shows you an exact number of points. But then it also has an ability that's ongoing throughout the game. But then on this side, you will have ones with different ways that you can earn victory points throughout the game, and it gives you 1 immediate action that you can do when you claim it. So as you would claim those, just like you would do with those end-of-game goals, you would stick one of your manta rays up there. It gets more expensive to do it, however, the more people do the same one. You would have to pay more each time somebody else has placed a manta ray there. And so basically, if you want a little bit longer game, you can play the Cold Waters version. It has a little bit more strategy to it. Or if you want the shorter game, you can play with the end game goals. And that is how you play Aquatica.
Hey, thanks so much, John. Yes, great video. Appreciate you, man. As always, you're one of my favorites in the show. Out of the 4, you're one of my favorites. I love it.
That's awesome.
So yeah. So Aquatica, so as I said even just before that, is I actually love this game. I really enjoy it. I dig the hand management aspects of it and just the selection that I'm doing in there. I like that it has the tight resources where you're dealing with the cards and you have to generate your currency kind of right then and there in order to play. Nothing rolls over, so I really dig that and how you can use the mana. I think there's a higher level of strategy than initially expected, and until you really start to learn the game, then the strategy starts to kick in. That's my personal thought. Maybe I'm just naive to that, but I think there's a lot of strategy in it. I really enjoy how the location cards, you can use power or you can use the coins to purchase them, so that gives you some diversity, which I really enjoy. But even further furthermore, I really like how the player boards work and how you can kind of explore the depths and start gaining more of those resources and can start to kind of almost like an engine building in that regard with how you sliding up the cards and just gathering those resources. And I think that adds a lot and ultimately scoring points based on exploring those depths for those cards. And I just think it's a really unique and creative game. I hadn't really played anything much like it. And I just really, really appreciated that. What I don't love about the game is how sometimes in that market, it can get a little bit stagnant in there. I don't dig that part. But outside of that, all in all, I think it's a super good game. It's a lot of fun, and my wife really enjoys it, which makes me enjoy it a whole lot more. So it's a game we get to the table quite frequently. So yeah, I really dig Aquatica. And if you say
Cool.
anything else, you're wrong.
I do gotta ask a question, Joe. Have you played the expansion?
Yeah, I've played it, but only a couple times, so I don't have a ton to say about it. But I did enjoy what it brought. Yeah.
All right. Well, I asked you that because I'm going to lead in with this. We like to try to find a game that is going to divide us. And John was like, "Hey, I like Aquatica," so I was thinking, "Okay, great, we're going to be divided. This is awesome." And then we played the first game without the expansion, and I got to say, it was a little meh. Granted, the play group was a little weird that night too, and I had just come back from surgery, literally the next day. So I could have been a little tainted. So I was like, we have to play again. So we got our friend Kelly to come. She brought the game, and we played with the expansion. And I do think the expansion fixed a lot of one of the things I wasn't a big fan of, and that was the end game scoring. In the original game, the end game scoring just happens. It's like if you have 10 cards in your hand, and you're like, oh, I have 10 cards in my hand. I get it. It was just always like these moments of like, oh, I just did that. Okay. And you weren't really playing for it. You weren't really trying, and it just happened. So that was a lot left to a lot to be desired. But the expansion replaces that with people that you can actually hire to give you ongoing abilities, which fixes not only the end game scoring problem, but it also fixes the problem that I had with the game too, and that is you never had an engine that you felt like you could really rely on. Like you had a card that says you get +1 fight. And you're like, great, I can't conquer anything with one fight. Well, you have to conquer this stuff, and you got to have it in your tableau that you get to use one time, and then you move it up, and then you can't use it again. So there's not a lot of these opportunities to really like get a robust engine going on, except for in that expansion with the whole row of people where you can have like always on abilities and always going on things. The other thing, I know my time is up, but the other thing I have to mention is the scouting action. That is actually the thing that like ruined me on the game, and if I thought there was any weak spot with it, it's the scouting. It feels like it's a tied in, it's like a very forced mechanism. It was like they were like, we need one more thing for these cards to do, and they're like, okay, well, it's a scout. Okay, well, can't we just fill the board up without scouting? And it's like, no, 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 no. You have to play the scout card to fill the board up. And it's like, well, that just feels dirty. And then if I don't have my scout card and there's only one card left, it's like, I don't have any options anymore. And then now I'm forced to buy the cards that nobody wanted because that's the only thing I can actually do in the game is buy these cards that nobody wanted. And then I hope that John or Chris or Joe will play the scout action so I can do something. So I was warm on it. I played the expansion and it felt better, and I finally did get to the point where I actually enjoyed the game. So is it hot? Yeah, I think it is. I think it is an underrated game. I think if you haven't tried it, you should actually give it a try. Even without the expansion, I think it's a cool experience that's kind of unique.
Daniel, this isn't hot or not. This is the great game debate. So is it a great game?
Yeah, I can't tell
Oh
where you're
yeah,
landing on this
okay.
one.
It's a great game. So yeah, okay. Well, this is stretching the limit of great game debate. I think this came out in 2022.
Nevertheless,
No, no.
nevertheless.
Yeah.
But
I
anyway,
think Chris would say this is a new game.
yeah. But
It's 2018, I think. It's 2018.
yeah,
It's
it's before
2022?
it's before COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, if it's before COVID, then
Yeah,
that's,
yeah,
that's
that's
a whole different
fair.
world.
Whole
Then,
other
so,
time.
yeah.
But we are still going to
Before
disagree
times.
somewhat here, Daniel, because when Joe submitted his list of games he wanted to talk about, and Aquatica was on there, I'm like, oh my word, I love Aquatica. It's like one of my favorite games. Now these yahoos are going to have to play it for the show, so this is great. Let's pick Aquatica. That's going to be a great time. Yeah, the hand manager. I think I've mentioned it before in the show. Any of the games with that hand management style where everybody starts out with the same hand, well, except you get a leader that's different than everybody else, but it's a matter of deciding when to play those and hold the ones back that you can still use and trying to wait as long as possible before you have to bring them back into your hand. It's just a lot of strategy involved in that. And I love that. I love those decision making. And talking about the different versions of it, I learned it with the Cool Waters expansion. And to be honest, the first time I played it, and it was the maximum player count was 5 players. I think our friend Kelly was there, and I'm talking to her during the whole teach just about. And so I'm like, do you even understand what's going on with the Cool Water stuff? No, okay, I'm just going to learn the game, whatever. And so I thought it was a little too much to take in the first time you play it, maybe, unless you're really paying attention, which I wasn't. But I think it offers two different styles of play, though. I like having the end game scoring up there, where it just makes for a shorter game, and sometimes too much shorter of a game, because when I did buy it finally, I didn't have the expansion. I played with just the base end game rules that are on there, the end game goals, and taught it to some. The teach was longer than the game. I taught it to real gamers, and we sat down and played it. And one person had all 4 of them. I swear it was 20 minutes in. He had all 4 goals done. I'm like, well, that ends the game. What the heck? And so it's that the end game. Even when you put in the more aggressive goals, it still kind of sneaks up on you. That end game will sneak up on you on that version. It doesn't happen when you play with the Cool Waters expansion, because you're biding your time more. You're really setting up the big turns, because it's like, oh, well, I don't want to, because you have to pay for these things with coins, combination of coins and victory points. I don't want to give up victory points. So now I'm trying to conquer all these places that are getting me coins at the same time, and then set up this big turn where it's like, okay, now I have my card where I can do this. I got 8 coins. Boom, I can do that. In the time you would have scouted 3 times or something like that instead, which would have ended the game sooner. So, and I don't know what you're talking about with that. It seems like people are always scouting when I don't want them to, and it's getting over scouted when I'm playing, and then, dude, the game's gonna end. Quit scouting so much. So, but as far as that goes, great game. It's great either way you play it, in my opinion. Just no matter what you're in the what flavor of the day you're wanting. Do you want chocolate or vanilla? Do you want the one where you're going to have a little bit of a quicker game and it's a little bit easier to teach, or do you want the one where you have the Cool Waters expansion where there's a little more to it? But a great game either way. It's an amazing game. I haven't tired of it yet.
I had to defend the scout thing. You're right, Chris. Or sorry, John.
John.
You're right, John.
No, I heard it right. You heard it right, people. I'm correct.
Everybody, I'm just so used to saying that. I'm not used to saying you're correct, John. So
Defense rests.
The scout action, yeah, everyone was doing it because sometimes that's the only thing you get to do as well. Like, I just felt like it was just an extra card. I just rather it somehow naturally refill and naturally fill up and naturally end out.
Which is weird, because you're the guy that always wants to be able to end the game quick. So this.
Oh no, I do appreciate that, but I can end the game quick by getting all my 4 things up there too. So all my end markers. So I could do it that way. I don't need to clear the deck out.
All right.
So to me, all right. So I'm just gonna jump in right here, and I'm like everyone else. Like, and we're normally trying to be divisive and have some people like something, some like, but this we couldn't get away from it here. This game is great. It is great. But I will kind of double down on a couple of things that people have talked about. There's some like issues. They're minor things, but they are just kind of things that I thought as I was playing it. So Daniel kind of talked about the scouting thing we just talked about here. Like it does feel weird, like it's a card and it's like, okay, you have one card that you have like 3 attack with that you can just go and attack a location to do it, right? That's one of the cards. And then you have one where it's only 1 attack and you have to scout, which then kind of like, declares the locations that you can attack, and then puts some of them in an extra area, and then puts other ones in discard or whatever like that. But you're forced to do that. And it's just like a little, it's okay, it's fine. It does move the game along, but I think it would be much more interesting if it was an action that you could just spend a couple of gold to clear everything, opposed to it being a forced card to actually make it happen. Now, again, maybe the designers built it in such a way to make sure the game moves along, but that's the small detail that I would do. One thing I also noticed is sometimes the character cards that you can add to your hand that gives you more action, so to speak, those are not exactly completely balanced. There are some that are kind of useful, and then there's some that are really, really powerful. I know I played a game, one of the games that I played of the game, I got like a score of like 96, and like everyone else is in the 40s, because I got a card that allowed me just to go through the discard pile and pick out any of the locations as if I had defeated it. So like, it could be an 8 power one that's really hard to do. I just play this card and I just go do it. Like, it's really good. And then there's additional ones where you can. There's another card that's like, just play a card that's in your discard again. So I was having this, and I had a character card that let me just defeat the one on top. So I was just defeating them all over and over and over, and then playing the guy that let me push it to the top and score. So it was an all-time score because of a weird combo. But what I would say is a small critique would be, instead of the normal system to where When you purchase these, they start at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the board, and when you buy one, they slide down. Instead of that, actually have prices based on the power of the card, and then an
Yeah.
ability to pay 2 gold or whatever and flush them as well. So a small critiques of game design that I think I would do differently. Not that I think I know everything, but just saying that kind of speak to me based on playing other games. That's good little things I would do. And also, I will say that like this isn't the viticulture level of viticulture plus viticulture with Tuscany, where like just don't play the game without Tuscany. That's how much of a difference the expansion makes. It's not to that level, but I will say that the open waters, or whatever you guys said, the name
Cool
of the
Waters.
Cool Waters, there you go. Name expansion that changes those in-game goals really does add a lot more like intrigue and also direction to the game. When like Dana was talking about, there's some of them it's just like, oh, have 10 cards. Oh, I got 10 cards. Just do it, right? Instead, these are cards that are different each time. They're also characters that you have to kind of hire with the hire thing. You can't just do them anytime you want to, Daniel. That's an inside joke. He accidentally did that on accident.
Yeah, I might have cheated in this game
Misunderstood the
too.
rules.
I
What a
got to keep
shot.
my reputation alive.
It was really funny.
Surprise.
But it was my fault. I didn't make it clear. But regardless, having those up there gives direction, and that's something I'm really starting to notice about board games as a whole, but especially with like individual player powers. They give you out of the box that direction to help start building your engine, which is nice on that first play of a game when you're like, I don't know, I can make money here. I'm going to go over and do that, right? Because usually that's useful in games, right? But having that individual player power gives you direction out of the box. So
One
so
thing, one thing I didn't say in my part is yeah, like Joey alluded to the engine building, and how you can. What I love is how you can just set up a gigantic turn, and so it's one of those games where you're like, pause, everybody just stop and pay attention, because you're like, I'm going to flip this, do this, play this card. That moves this up. He's going to do that. I get this. And then boom, boom, boom. I'm treasuring all these. And, because if I'm just sitting here doing this, number one, I'm worried everybody's going to be like, wait a minute, what did you just do over there? Number two, I love to just brag about my big turns. And that's just awesome to just watch this. You're not going to believe it. Watch what I got set up. And I love games that do that, where you can just set up some huge turn like that and just go crazy. And this one does it all the time.
Yeah, so
and
again,
that feels so good.
It does. Yep.
So yeah, just saying, like I had a bunch of little critiques, but it's only because I was trying to find something other to say it's great. Like if it sounds great to you, go get it. It's a great game to play. I will never not say I don't want to play it. So.
Yeah.
Or I never will say I want to not play it. Whatever.
Something like that.
It's like that 8-9 on BGG, whatever they call it.
Well, that was a great debate on Aquatica. As you can see, we all thought it was a great game because it is a great game, but there were some great points. Daniel is up and down about it, but, he's wrong. It's fine. There's a lot of great things shared and discussed. So if you, again, as was mentioned, if you like great games, play Aquatica, get it to the table, try it. It's a lot of fun. And the Cold Water expansion does definitely add some depth to it. No pun intended. Pun totally intended. We're good. So, but yeah, that was a great game debate.
Thank you for watching this clip from Around the Board. If you'd like to watch the full episode, please click on the link down below. Around the Board is essentially a game show featuring 4 board game enthusiasts that discuss board game topics and news in a competitive format. Whoever wins gets to talk about whatever he wants at the end of the show. So please join us, won't you, Around the Board.